with tens of you watching, I guess.
Supposedly, we are live. We will see.
Yeah. So hopefully we are live. I wanted to get a couple of housekeeping things on before we get to our 52-10 victory over New Mexico. You know, during our season preview, some commenters noted that, hey, hey, you're back. We missed you last year. We weren't gone last year. We experimented with Twitter Spaces. We did all our shows that way, not on YouTube. So please, in case we do go back to that at some point this year, follow us on Twitter at Meltdown Eggs. Uh, oh, oh my gosh. I'm totally failing. I'm getting feedback because I'm also watching the stream. Anyway, so yeah, do that. But we're our plan is to be here for the season, um, doing the show this way. So 52-10, Aggies beat New Mexico. Um, it was pretty good. What do you think, Brian?
Well, in a game like this, you're playing one of the worst opponents in college football. So you want to throw the result out the window, right? There's a couple things on my list that I'm looking for. I want to see that the football team knows what it's doing. Okay. I want to see that they're technically sound, that they're playing assignment football, and that, yeah, that they're able to completely dominate the guys across from them. They play a clean game, right? That there's not a ton of penalties, that there's not a bunch of substitution issues. And so, look, A&M scored 52 points. That was people talked about it all week. That was sort of the benchmark. Oh, I want to see 50. I want to see 50. It's been a long time since we did that. All right, check that box. But to me, the more important boxes was they played very clean, very, very clean. And everybody that was on the field, for the most part, looked like they knew where they were supposed to be, what their assignment was, and then they went out and executed it. And, to me, that was the biggest win from Saturday and the thing that I came away feeling best about. How about you?
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what else we can really glean from the game, just because of the style of play New Mexico had. Right, they were a very high risk, high reward style of play on defense, and you know we had a guy out there that made them pay for that. Right, when Connor Wegman,
Yeah.
and so not everybody's going to play that way. Not everybody's going to gamble like that, and so you didn't see actually much of the things we've really talked about with Connor that we really like, the way he attacks between the hashes and stuff. Just because New Mexico was really selling out to stop the run, stacking the box, and so Connor was like, "Oh, well, I guess we're just going to beat you one on the outside all day," and that's what we did. Oh, yes. Sorry. So we've got our first comment. Someone's pointing out that I'm saying Wigman wrong. I just learned that this week. It's Wigman, not Wegman. Wigman. But anyway, thanks for pointing that out, Brendan.
Thanks, Brendan. You know what? The entire time, all I hear is Wigman from you, so I don't really know what that's all about. But maybe you
Oh,
get a little lazy, and I just don't notice it.
yeah,
Well, let's
I
talk
do that.
about Connor Wigman in more detail, because, like you said, didn't need to tack the hashes. Took advantage of one-on-one matchups. Went deep all night long, with a high degree of success. You know, but going back and watching the game, uh, the other things that we really liked was just recognition. Like the kid just gets it. He understands, what he's seeing at the line of scrimmage. There was a play action touchdown to Evan Stewart in the game, and you know he's under center. He's got a tight end to his left. He's got a couple guys split out, and he's got a running back behind him. But he's under center, and right as he's about to snap the ball, the safety starts to walk up. And I mean, it's a split second thing, but you could actually feel Connor take the snap, turn his back to fake the handoff, and he couldn't wait to fake the handoff and whip his head around because he knew one of those two dudes is flying down the field wide open. And he, he the kid just recognizes things and reacts to things on the field so naturally. And the reason that I know that's not just me thinking that is that despite playing one of the worst football teams in America, the guys in the national media who bother to watch film and who actually pay attention to the details couldn't stop talking about how well he played and how high they were on A&M after this game and how they had to readjust their expectations for the football team because of the way that he was playing. Because he validated things that they probably saw from last season, but they, okay, he got it right once or twice. Well, after a full off season, what he did in this game was so clean and so efficient and just so on top of it. And he's running the team too, right? So, no penalties for the most part. And just everything from Connor Wigman looked really good. The other thing, that a lot of people talked about all offseason was the offensive line. And what did you think? What did you see from the offensive line that maybe gives you hope going through the rest of the season?
I haven't. I've only rewatched once, and I haven't really spent that much time watching the offensive line. My impressions during the game was this is fine. Like we're not really noticing them. Connor was pressured a little bit, but like we said, New Mexico they were selling out quite a bit. Um, so I'm still kind of in wait and see mode, but we were kind of warned on Friday, if you were listening to Billy Lucci on Texas Radio, that New Mexico was going to do this. That they've done it before. They're going to do a lot of stunts and twists and try to confuse the offensive line. Um, and why wouldn't they? Because other teams like New Mexico um, have employed the same strategy early in the season against our line and been successful and causing a lot of penetration, causing a lot of guys to run around and block nobody because they don't know what they're doing. So, um, in that respect, I mean, they seem to pick it up just fine from the very beginning. And the result was five straight touchdowns on five straight possessions, right? So, um, how are they going to handle a much more athletic defensive line coming in this week? I don't know, but I think we've got reason to be encouraged.
Yeah, you go back to the last time New Mexico was in Kyle Field. You go back to the Vanderbilt opener in 2020. That in a season where our offensive line turned out to be dominant. But in that first game against Vandy,
Right.
an undersized defensive line, all right, who stunts all over the place, they had all kinds of issues. They were very, very confused. And man, from the get-go on Saturday, these guys were not confused. They knew what their assignments were. And that's not to say that New Mexico wasn't successful in what they were trying to do some of the time. Now look, they really never got to Connor. Okay, there was a couple of times where they had some pressure from blitzes and the kid, you know, just slid left, completed a pass, or broke out of the pocket and made an incredible throw down the right sideline to a streaking Noah Thomas, which was probably his best throw of the night, and it didn't count
Yeah.
because they got the running back for holding, right, for hooking. But
Yeah.
there was only a handful of those, and then in the running game, I saw some folks that were frustrated with the running game and the results. They ran for 160 yards in the game. Okay, so nothing to sneeze at. But when you go back and watch the game and you watch the offensive line, these guys were creating running lanes despite the fact that New Mexico was just, they were not even remotely concerned with what was happening behind the line of scrimmage, where the handoff or the running back was appearing to be going at the snap. They were just turning around and creating chaos to their right or to their left. I mean, at one point I watched the left end at the snap turn around, head 90 degrees down the line, and just take the center or the nose guard, excuse me, and just shove him down to the ground on the other side of this play, right? Just to create chaos.
Right.
And so yeah, it's sort of the difference between running lanes and just stepping over random bodies. And the group that I thought struggled the most with that was actually the running backs. I don't think the line struggled at all. I think the running backs struggled to trust their blocking and to just hit the hole that was created. And I think if they hadn't gotten caught up in some of that chaos, I think they would have been far more productive. There was way too many times in the game where a 6 yard run, what should have been a 6 yard run, ended up being a 4 yard run. And that was frustrating to
Yeah.
me. The tight ends
Yeah,
didn't block
especially against a team like New
great.
Mexico. No.
Right. The tight ends didn't block great, but I think they got better as the game went on. Johnson struggled early, but he got it. He seemed to get it figured out as the game went on. So that was encouraging. Max Wright was a blocking fool, to be honest. So of the three, he did a great job. Of the four, I should say, because or maybe even five. I saw a couple. I saw the freshmen out there as well. A lot of guys involved, and that's another thing on the line. There was a dozen dudes that played on the line throughout the game. There was a lot. Uh, Kind of the theme across the board. We played a lot of guys, but it was
Yeah,
encouraging.
we did. It really was. I think that's a frustration from a lot of Aggies just for the entire Jimbo era is, you know, not rotating guys, especially at running back. We saw all three guys get a lot of snaps. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily because they don't know who the guy is yet, but I thought we saw enough. Like you said, they weren't as efficient as we would have liked to have seen them, but um, they all had their moments. Um, they all did some good things in pass protection. Um, so yeah, the tight end group, well, losing Donovan Green really hurt. I think that was pretty clear. We didn't see much action from them at all game. Now, part of that, I think, again, is the way New Mexico was playing. The matchups just, it wasn't the tight ends game. The matchups were the wide receivers, right? I think if you watch the John Harris did a good film breakdown of what was going on. And there were times where New Mexico, for whatever reason, had cover corners on tight ends and um, hybrid linebacker safeties covering Evan Stewart or Noah Thomas, right? So like that's the matchup you're going to go with. Um, so that's fine. That's going to happen game to game. I think you just have to look at that and be like, I'm glad we have Connor, um, Petrino, whatever, recognizing those matchups and attacking them. Because if we've been frustrated with anything the last few years, that's really it, right?
Yep. Yeah. No. Absolutely. And I think there was a lot of talk online. Oh, this new Petrino offense. We knew that was going to happen, right? Look,
Yeah,
Bobby Petrino hasn't even remotely come close to changing up what we do yet. Look,
not
I
yet.
fully not yet.
Hmm.
And we talked about the tight ends not really being involved in the passing game. Their day is coming.
Yeah,
Anaya Smith. Anaya Smith's day is coming. There's going to be weeks where we're going to throw the kitchen sink at teams, and that creativity and that ability to game plan, and then call plays in game and change things up is going to really shine. But Saturday was all about the number one recruiting class of all time. Those receivers, those linemen, and the quarterback on the offensive side of the ball. You saw a new era in Aggie football. It was on full display, and it all goes back to who do you bring in talent wise? And my God, do we have talent? We also have a ton of talent on the other side of the ball, and I think that's a more interesting analysis and probably one that's going to take a little bit more time. But man, do they pass the eyeball test. Holy crap. Those dudes are monsters. And it took all of about 6 months. Um, you know, uh, who stood out to you on the defensive side of the ball?
and I don't know how you pick out anybody except I maybe DeBerry, just because there was such a we weren't really sure. We knew we were bringing in a couple of transfers to shore up the secondary, so um, kind of what was going to happen there. I thought he played great. Uh, I I don't know how you single out one defensive lineman, maybe Walter Nolan because he's Walter Nolan, right? Just a crazy freak, or was it who was it that ran down the receiver on the reverse and got the the bad face mask penalty that I think Olin Buchanan rightly called just kind of unlucky, you know. Um, wasn't really trying to run him down. But who was that? Shamar?
It's
Was
Mark
that
Stewart.
Turner?
Yeah.
It
No.
was Stewart. Yeah, I
Yeah, it was
I think
Shamar
maybe
Stewart, and
yeah,
and the guy looks like an absolute physical freak of nature. I mean, the amount of speed and size and length, like the guy's arms look like they're 8 feet long, and with size to match. And that play was incredible, and you could see it coming. Like
yeah,
you see the
yeah,
guy on the reverse, and I'm going, no, he's gonna catch him, and he sure as heck did. He took his angle away, and that was special. And I think folks should get used to what that guy can do. Walter Nolan was a freak, and I
yeah,
think he plays in the middle, and people sort of take that for granted at times. Dude, that dude's body has changed, and but possessing all the explosiveness that made him, one of the top players in the country, and everybody wanted him. God, we're lucky to have some of these dudes. And then, you know, LT Overton actually may have played the most snaps at end of anybody on the team. He had a great game. Fadil Diggs looked good. I'm probably missing, 500 rates. McKinley. Right? We're not even
McKinley,
talking. We're not
um,
even talking about those guys.
Regis. Yeah,
Regis, Albert
I saw
Regis.
Regis out there at one point. I was like, oh right, I forgot about that guy who's just a super veteran guy that's going to eat space and make plays for us. Yeah, if you're rather than calling out an individual, I think it's that super deep defensive line was the thing that has to have stood out the most. I know some people were frustrated that we didn't seem to get home as much as we would have liked. I kind of agree. I don't know who was it. It was on Texas Radio made a good point. When these teams like New Mexico come in, they know that they are outmatched athletically, and the they've got other games to play, right? They got their own conference that they're trying to win. Okay, they're these games where they come to go play Texas A&M. They know they're not going to win. And the last thing that coach wants is for his quarterback to get injured by Walter Nolan, right? And so these teams, like, they always come in with a game plan to get the ball out fast. So you're not often going to get sacks, but you are going to rush the quarterback. You can hurry him. You can make him uncomfortable. You can do what Fadil Diggs did, which was basically cause an interception, right? Yeah. So I think that's kind of the most you can hope for in a game like this. And as a group, no matter who we put out there, just cause a massive havoc, which they need to
Yeah,
do against an inferior opponent.
they really did. And look, the quarterback for New Mexico, he's a transfer. This guy's started two
Yeah.
years coming in elsewhere at UAB. He had played a lot of games, completed a high percentage of passes. His career average per completion was close to 10 yards. Okay. On Saturday, it was 4.8. Right. You rarely
Yeah.
saw him attempt to pass beyond 5 yards past the line of scrimmage. It was quick, and he was really accurate with it. I'll give him a lot of credit. There were some guys I think in our secondary who wish they'd made a few more plays, but they kept it in front of them, right? And the result speaks for itself. They got 10
Mhm.
points. The 10 points came on drives where they had personal foul penalties that extended the drive. And beyond that, they played a really solid football game. Linebackers were solid. They're just going to be solid in this defense. You're
Mhm.
not going to notice them a whole lot with the style that we play. I did notice York. The kid did start. He played quite a bit at the football game and looked like he knew what he was doing. He didn't look like a guy who was out of his element in calling the defense and telling guys where to go. And that's a true freshman. So, there's a reason he's starting. Kid just looks really comfortable. And Edge Cooper
Yeah,
played really well. He played well. He really
yeah,
did.
he really did. He was very solid. Lord York, like you said, there was a lot of hand wringing over the rumor that York was going to start. Oh, a freshman linebacker. What's that going to be? Look, I I understand, but you had two guys in Edge Cooper and Chris Russell. You had solid established starters, so there's no reason for this coaching staff to like throw a true freshman out there unless they know that guy is ready. Chris Russell, I thought, he had kind of what we've seen from him. A mixed
Yep.
bag. He's just
Yep.
been a mixed bag his whole career. And, you know, he's been, I think, surpassed by Torian York. And that is what it is. You mentioned the
Yep.
one drive they had with the two big penalties. Chris Russell gets held on the touchdown play. Um, right at the point of attack, not called, bad, obvious hold. But you need your linebackers to not put themselves in that position.
That's what's
That
going
just
to
is
happen in
that's
conference
what it
play.
is. Yeah, yeah, for sure. So
So our
yeah,
defensive linemen were getting held all game as well. Those dudes were just basically holding on for dear life, and I didn't see them complaining about it very much.
mhm,
They got called for a couple, but man, that's life in the SEC for sure. So you might as well get
mhm,
used to it, and we need guys who can fight through all of that for sure.
yeah,
Let's talk about some of the old guys for a second. Damani. Uh, Kind of hit or miss, to be honest. There were some plays to be made for Damani, and didn't quite get there, or hit some dudes. He'll hit some dudes for sure, and take out some
yeah,
aggression. But I kind of that's one to watch for me as the season goes on, and that would be a really tough thing I think for this coaching staff is to start taking away snaps from a Damani Richardson. So I hope I hope he elevates because the guy came back and didn't have to come back. And yeah, maybe he wouldn't have been drafted as high as he wants to be. But I hope he elevates his game and gets to where he wants to go. What did you think of Anias? Anias's night, kind of a quiet night. What
it
would
was
you
a
think?
quiet night. I thought it was interesting. I mean, offensively, it almost, I would say, encouraging that you didn't see much production from guys we know can produce. Ananias, Moose,
Moose.
right? Um, very quiet nights for them. I we assume just because the matchups dictated a lot of Noah Thomas, and a lot of Evan Stewart, but that we've still got those bullets in our gun, right? I think Ananias, the punt return, electric. Um, you know, doing a lot of blocking, um, and being a leader out there, right? I mean, he was first one celebrating with anybody that did something good. So I think, like you said, Ananias's time is going to come. It's just going to, from game to game, going to be dictated by matchups. Some days it's going to be the tight ends. I think, you know, we're going to see more wrinkles, more Petrino influence, whatever, as the season goes on. Ananias's time will come. He looks healthy. He looks quicker than he's ever been. So, you know, we'll see a lot more of him as the season goes on, and Moose too, I think. Um, but it was strange to not see him targeted that much until Max came in. I think he really only had one target until Max came in. He caught a couple of passes. Um, but hey, I don't know. I think we kind of have to talk about Noah Thomas. I think Noah Thomas is clearly taken away Moose's touches. I do find it funny that everyone has just kind of been like, "Oh my God, Noah Thomas!" There was all this hype like this off season, but I guess it's all been true, right? And I'm just going, how? What do you mean just this off season? I don't know. We've been on the Noah Thomas train since he hit fall camp last year, right? Um, I think there was a clip that Brawny or somebody had from one of the practices of him like coming out of a cut, and it was like, what the hell? Like
Yeah.
6'6" guys don't move like that. So if he can learn to play the position, then he is going to dominate. And I think you're starting to see that come to fruition because holy cow. I,
Yeah, I
I,
think
I guess I can't
I,
blame the coaches. I mean, look, we love Moose and we know Moose is going to make plays, but when Noah Thomas is 5 inches taller, I mean, and can move almost as well, what are you going to do?
I went back and I was watching some tape from last year this weekend, and that LSU game, Noah Thomas is all over the place there, and really,
Mhm.
if folks are sleeping on him, I don't blame them because I think LSU last year. I think folks were so caught up in the euphoria of us just being in that game and winning that game that they sort of forget how it all went down and who the players were and how and just what that was about. And the media certainly did it because they've ignored it. We'll talk about LSU here in a minute. But he was there and he emerged in that game, and you know that is actually going to be an interesting theme to watch. Is what we saw there, and we talked about this last week, is what we expect to see this year. And a lot of those linemen, a lot of those receivers, uh, some tight ends. Unfortunately, we had Donovan Green, but Jake Johnson played in that game. It was one of the few games he played in all season, right? And he was out there in two tight end sets most of the night. So, those guys grew up, and Saturday was our first shot at getting to see what that looks like. And man, it's really hard to nitpick. The one thing that a lot of people are nitpicking, and the more I watch it, I think they do have a point. A lot of those deep throws, they weren't on the money. They were either jump balls or they were relying on those guys to body out and go get it. When you've got those guys, that's lower risk than overthrowing a dude.
Right. Right.
But the flip side of that is when we go up against tougher defenses and better DBs, are
Sure.
those guys going to be able to make those plays that New Mexico couldn't make? And I would say, yes, that's true. There's another guy who knows that's true, and that's Connor Wigman.
Right.
And we have
Yeah.
enough of a track record to know that when Connor Wigman needs to place a ball, he can place a ball. So I'm not worried about it, but I do think it was a valid point coming out of the game.
It
And it'll be something to watch.
it will be. It's a valid point. I think people kind of have unrealistic expectations when it comes to college quarterbacks sometimes on that. Like what college quarterback is hitting those passes or quarterback receiver combination? What team are you out there actually seeing those passes complete at what rate? Right. Um, and this goes back to a lot of the narratives around our offense and stuff like that. And these teams make it look so easy, blah blah blah. You're not watching those teams week to week and every snap of every game. The higher percentage play is to err on the side of underthrowing those balls. That's just the way it is. Like the risk is to overthrow them, which you know we saw a lot from guys like Kellen Mond that frustrated our fan base, right? When he did attempt deep balls, trying to be too perfect with it and ended up overthrowing a guy. So we completed a very high percentage of those passes against an inferior opponent. That percentage is going to drop when we play a team like Miami. That's okay. It really is. So, and like you said, I think Connor will is very good at doing the math on the fly on those, right? And reading leverage and you know making a percentage pass. So we'll see how it plays out. It's something to watch, but like I said, one game we've put it on film now, right? I think that's a very important thing that our opponents know. Oh, you can't sit here and sell out, stack the box, and expect us to not throw it over your head anymore, right? So
Yeah.
we'll see how it plays out.
All right, well, let's put the Aggies aside for a minute because we had 5 straight days of college football. We had some big
So
games,
much
man.
football.
We had so
Yeah.
much. We even had one last night, which we're going to have to talk about. But let's back it up, and I want to back it up. We'll go to Saturday. Saturday had a couple of at least very hyped games, and none more hyped than the one that happened right here in Fort Worth between Colorado and TCU. Man, what did you think of that football game? What do you take away from that?
Uh, Gosh. So, I mean, we were both traveling. I didn't get to watch much of that game, really just the first quarter. And I haven't got to see, any film on it or anything. But, the number one
Then you don't have an
takeaway,
opinion.
no,
He didn't see the game.
yeah, except that nobody should be as surprised as they are. Certainly, if they were listening to this podcast, they wouldn't be surprised. Um, and I think Colorado's getting more credit than they deserve because of that, right? But look, I don't know. I don't know what to think of Colorado because they're not even the same team they were last year, right? Team that won 2 games and a new coach that is like completely gutted and overhauled the roster. And so, you know, I will see. I don't think it's going to work that well for them. I don't think that's like a 9-win team or anything that, you know, beat the defending playoff team. I'm tired of hearing that. Um, TCU's not the team that was in the playoff last year anymore, not anywhere close to it. And so we've been saying for months now that team is not going to contend, that they could have real problems. And so, you know, should it have been that surprising? I don't think so.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't think Colorado would win the game, but I thought both teams would probably, yeah, they just score a lot of points, and that's really what happened. Now Colorado made a stop at the end to win it. It was one of the few stops they really made in the second half, except for Travis Hunter. That guy is a freak, an absolute freak, and is going to be, a day one NFL guy when he decides to go pro. I don't know if he can play over 100 snaps a game a couple of weeks in a row, which is what he did on Saturday.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, it's two bad rosters, man. It was two rosters that, just I think I think they're gonna have to pay their bills pretty soon, man. And I think some of these teams that they're playing are gonna put it to them. So we'll see, more to come. And then after that game at 2:30, we had our friends down in Austin kicked it off against Rice. This game, I actually had pretty high expectations for Texas, in particular, some position groups going into this game, and um, they should have manhandled Rice, and they didn't. And if I was a Texas fan, I would be really worried. I don't think many of them are, but they should be, because that offensive line, particularly on the right side, struggled to block Rice. And look, it was one on one. It was hat on hat. Like, and they were getting beat on that side, and that should be extremely concerning when you're going to Tuscaloosa this weekend, and you're playing a quarterback who can run the downhill on you. And all indications are the offensive line that Nick Saban has is poised for destruction. Right. So we'll know more. I don't really think I need to say more about that. Look, I thought Quinn Ewers played fine, um, considering there was some pressure and he was having to run around quite a bit. I think he actually played fine. He didn't play great, but he was good. Um, Arm talent hasn't gone away. Xavier Worthy hasn't gone away. Um, but man, they better be able to keep that kid upright, because against Rice he took some shots. So we'll see. Was there any college
Well,
football, Casey, that you watched this weekend other than A&M?
Yeah, well, I mean, I watched the game, some of it last night. I watched some of Florida State LSU. Kind of. I was traveling. Um, Trying to think who else
Well,
played.
then
I'll tell you
let's
if I
talk about
watched.
last night. Let's talk Duke Clemson.
Oh, Duke Clemson, the Fighting Elcos,
I'm
the
not allowed to have
Fighting
an opinion on
Elcos.
this game.
You're not
I
allowed to
have to
comment.
maintain. I have to
You have
maintain
to
my
recuse
neutrality.
yourself.
Yeah,
No,
like
you
Herb
don't.
Street.
Oh
My-
God.
For those that don't
Well,
know, I do have a kid out in Durham, and you know, so that's my second team.
yeah,
If I'm not cheering for
it's
the
funny
Aggies, I got to
too
be cheering for
because
Duke.
I turned on that game and they're showing shots of the fans and I was like, oh man, I bet that's a cool atmosphere. And then I just turned to her aunt and I was like, oh my God, she's probably not even at this game, is she? I was like, man, that's rough. That's
Yeah,
rough.
she did send me some
But
some photos of the blimp flying around campus, but yeah, no, she wasn't there.
she been she
Uh,
been pl-
I guess she had,
tracking its navigation patterns.
right. Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
like,
Well,
oh, that's too much
I
for
don't know. I
my
didn't raise her
kid.
right. Let's just be honest. All
Yeah,
right, so she's got better things to
yeah.
do, like stay home and study for her 6 classes on Tuesday or whatever it is. So yeah, she's killing
Okay.
it. But sports is not her thing. But Duke, it turns out they like football and getting pretty decent at it all of a sudden. So hey, Mike Elko showed up, and that was a very Mike Elko game. Uh,
Sure.
they're solid on defense, but they're not going to take any chances until they know what you're trying to do. And it turns out what Clemson was trying to do in this game was sabotage any chance they had of winning, and they were successful at it. It was
Yeah. How many
horrific.
trips inside the 10? Not in the red zone. Trips. 3 trips inside the 10 with a 0 points. Show me the Johnny Manziel. Uh,
Zero.
zero. Zero
Yeah,
points. Two
0
fumbles.
points. Two fumbles, a missed and a missed field goal. Yeah, absolutely. One of the fumbles was unforced. It was on the quarterback. So on Cade Klubnik on a missed handoff. So yeah, it was a really bad night for them. Honestly, the I think Mike Elko was surprised they were the ones up 2 scores in the second half of that game. But to their credit, like I said, once Mike Elko figures out what you are trying to do, he's pretty dang good at shutting it down.
Yeah.
And they really got rolling down the stretch in that game. The quarterback for Duke made just enough plays. But look, that's another one who is going to get a huge bump from that win. And I'm looking at their schedule and I'm going, there's a lot of
Mm,
decent teams on that schedule that aren't going to come in and make the same mistakes that Clemson made. And getting to
right.
that 9 win level that they got to last year is going to be tough. And so I think a lot of folks, saw a lot of A&M people. Oh, Mike Elko, we need Mike Elko back if Jimbo ever retires. I'm like, look, that's a hell of a
Man.
leap, man. That's a hell of a leap.
Yeah.
I,
It,
I think I don't know what to say. I don't want to say anymore on it. I don't.
yeah, I think we'll have all season to talk about that stuff because yeah, I mean
Yeah,
that was an interesting game, an interesting weekend for narratives, right? Because Clemson had one of them make it look easy offenses, right? That's my favorite one. These guys that make
Garrett
it look so
Riley.
easy. They had the Garrett Riley, and I before we get into what's been said about Petrino and everything this week, I don't know. I kind of feel the need to take a step back because I don't think we ever really got a chance to talk about it because I think we haven't done a show since Petrino was hired and all that went down. And if you watched the show, listen to our Twitter Spaces last year, we've been very much in the camp of it's not scheme and it is just execution. And Aggies get real frustrated with that. They've gotten very frustrated with Jimbo. They don't want to hear it. And I get it. I went 5-7, pissed off. You don't want to hear it. Okay, but it is largely true. And this fantasy you have of the make it look easy offense is a very narrow sample. It's a lot of confirmation bias. And so, when I talked to the last show about like kind of retreating from the Twitter and Texags and all of that, it's just I got so tired of hearing our fans and all the talking heads talk about all the wrong things and draw all the wrong conclusions, not just about A&M but other teams and stuff from college football, and it drove me crazy, um, especially as a fan, because look, if you are complaining about the wrong problem, you're going to chase the wrong solution, and the problem was not scheme, and so you might have chased Garrett Riley instead of a guy like Bobby Petrino. And look, I don't know how it's going to play out, but I think, like I said, if you've watched the show, we were very much hoping for someone that would not be a complete scheme overhaul, because we don't think scheme's the problem. And what we saw this week is very much the exact same things we've been seeing from the Jimbo offense, just with a different guy pulling the trigger. And so, I just got tired of hearing about all of that. Um, and everything that happened this weekend, unfortunately, is not going to slow it down from the media. If anything, it's just going to make it worse. I just, I don't know, man. We're so high on Bobby Petrino right now, and I'm just going like, what are we looking at? Um, because
Yeah,
to the point of you're chasing the wrong solutions. Every time we've pointed that out, or anyone else has pointed that out on TexAgs, right? It's a very much an immediate fit of, if they concede any point about execution or whatever at all, but that's his job, is to get them to execute. And I just want to be very clear. We have never ever said it's not Jimbo's fault. I want to be very clear about that. All the problems are Jimbo's fault. Okay? It's that we were in that position because we lacked depth at certain things, and all these like injuries made the season go to hell in a handbasket. All right, and that maybe he's a little too stubborn and stuck to kind of his ways because he knows they work, right? And so he has, I don't think intentionally at all, sacrificed wins last season. I think he just had belief in his process, right, and didn't think it was going to lead to only 5 wins, and it just snowballed from there. That's all his fault. But that doesn't mean that it's scheme, right? Like, it's a different problem. And I think you and I are very much in the camp of, we don't like head coach play callers, right? You've
absolutely.
been on this. I remember you talking about this in the oh my god, what's his days? The guy before someone. He was a heck. Oh my god.
Oh, Mike Sherman.
Yeah, Mike Sherman, right? In that final season of his, where we had all those second half collapses, you've been harping on that since even back then, and I finally 100% in your camp after last season. Like, I don't like the head coach play caller, um, because I think during the game they lose sight of things like matchups. It's too much. If you ever go listen to Jimbo's press conferences after a game, immediately after the game, and listen to his responses when they ask him about things that happen on defense. That guy can tell you so much about what happened on defense during the game. And that's great that your head coach understands the game like completely on both sides that well, but it also means that when the defense has the ball, like, is he really paying attention to what's been going on offense, what's working, what's not, what matchups are our best chance right now? Like, I don't like that. And so,
Right.
I like having a guy in the booth whose his job is just to do that. I know Dickey was up there, but you know,
Not the
I,
same.
it's
Not the
not the
same.
same. I like having a guy, that does a lot of similar stuff, and I think we'll see more new stuff as the season goes on, but mostly does the same stuff. Um, just handling things so that Jimbo doesn't have to sit there and have his 5 play sheets. Um, so I think,
But it's not.
to
It's
me, when
not
I
just
watched the
about.
game Saturday,
Well, it's not just
what?
about what's going on the field in the game. Right?
Right.
You hired Jimbo Fisher, who is an absolute dominant recruiter, a mastermind of football. This guy remembers every single. It seems like he remembers every single player and play from his coaching career. Like the amount of information that man has in his brain is incredible. His attention to detail is incredible. What you're getting by having a Bobby Petrino around, a guy he trusts to hand his offense off to, and to improve it. All right, look, we're not going to sit here and say, oh, it's
Absolutely.
the same thing. He trusts that guy. Now you get the best of your football coach in a whole new capacity, from all the way from Sunday film watching with the players all the way to the next week and everything in between. You're getting a complete head coach, all right, who's not having to sit in every offensive meeting and handhold the quarterbacks and then the game planning and all of that stuff. If he can relinquish those things, and it appears like he's doing it, then you're going to get a better head coach. And that's what I'm excited about. And, we talk about the quality control. All right, guys knowing their assignments, the offensive linemen knowing where to be. Like he can sit back and kind of make sure all that's happening and really be working with his coaches in practices and in the meetings and everything else, and making sure the defense is completely on top of it. Sit in a defensive meeting, half the week, and talk through, what that offense is likely about to do. We should be getting a better Jimbo Fisher. And that's what I'm excited about. I'm not excited because I think, oh, we're going to do this whole new thing. I didn't want a whole new thing. Didn't want a whole new
Mm.
thing because when you see it work, it can't be stopped. It cannot be stopped the way some of these guys run their offenses. There's a reason Garrett Riley is now on one coast and his brother is on the other. There's a reason they went that way and they're not in the SEC. Okay. They know. They know. They know that what they're doing is not going to get it done.
No, no, they don't. And I have to point out. I don't know if maybe it was our last show or our second to last show last year when everyone was really pissed off, and I got annoyed with Josh Pate, who we love, right? Um, Making some snarky comments about the antique offense of Jimbo Fisher and everything, and I said then, I promise you, all of you, Josh Pate has no idea what differentiates Jimbo's offense from whatever it is he considers a modern college football offense. He doesn't know. And you're going to see that play out this year with how he talks about Bobby Petrino's impact on the A&M offense.
Yep.
You've already seen it with his comments this week over what happened in New Mexico. And he's not the only one. I hate to single him out because he really is, I think, one of the best in the business, if not the best in this kind of new talking head space. I don't know. We love our guy Jake Crane, um, but yeah, Pate's awesome. But I promise you, you're going to see some nonsense come from him when it comes to what happened against New Mexico and all these other talking heads. You're already seeing it, right? Because it's as if we've unveiled some new thing, and it's not. We didn't do anything new, and I know we will as the season goes on, and I'll be grateful to Petrino for that. But like, we didn't see anything special this weekend. We just saw a guy pulling the trigger that is unlike anything we've had in Aggie land. So, you know,
Yeah.
rant over,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, that's fine. Look, hey, we got Miami this coming weekend. That is a whole nother ball game. I'm
Mm.
loving the trash talk that's on Twitter. The Miami
Oh
fans,
God, Miami.
whoever they are and wherever they live, I don't know because they ain't at the football games, but they are fired up. They're fired up, and they can't wait for the game this weekend. I actually think it'll be a really good opportunity. It's a really good game. It is. There's no gimmies, man, and they got athletes. And I watched some of their game this past weekend. From what I saw, yeah, they looked pretty good. They looked fast. They look like they can fly around. Um, I just I think 15. I think he's the difference. He's so much
Yeah.
better than the guy that those guys have on their team. And I think our defensive line talent and depth just absolutely shows up and shows out. And I expect a comfortable win in the fourth quarter. Okay, not a blowout or anything like that. It's going to be tough, and we're going to be physically tested. I just think by the time this thing is winding down, I think A&M is gonna they'll have this thing in a comfortable place. Let's put it that way. That's my expectation.
Wow. Okay. Look, I don't know how any Aggie fans can sit through last season and not just be on pins and needles before every single game, right? And that's just because that's what this sport is. That's what makes it great, right? But yeah, I'm very happy with what we saw, and that for once we came out and just looked solid, looked in control against an inferior opponent. Like I don't remember how long it's been since we've looked like that against, you know, in game one, right? So, and like you said, Miami, they're getting a lot of hype for beating a team that I don't think's any better than New Mexico. Not really. Miami fans are talking a lot of trash, acting like, I don't know,
We're
Miami
gonna
of
get
Ohio
you.
is going to take they're going to
We're
take
gonna
our
get
spot
you.
in the SEC or something. I don't know. Like they
Yeah.
beat such a much better opponent, and whatever.
Well,
But
look, I know where their bravado comes from. You can see it. They thought they should have won that game last year, and they should have. Okay, honestly, I feel like they should have won it. Um, and they think they're playing the same team, and that's the problem. And they're not playing the same team. They're not even
yeah,
remotely playing the same team. Uh, you know, Whatever showed up on that field that night has added about 30 pounds across the board and knows what they're doing. So,
yeah,
I just feel very confident in that. And it's a team
yeah.
it's an A&M team that still
Uh,
has a lot to prove.
no, you're right. I mean, we're not playing the same Miami team either. We're not playing the same quarterback. We're playing a guy that's got an entire year starting additionally under his belt. If we're gonna talk in our last show so much about the effect of like experience and seniors and growth from year to year, we have to give them credit for that. I just, you know, I think we've made more growth. The on paper we're better, um, talent wise, composite talent, all of that. You know, it's on the road. We're a much better football team than we were last year. They're, I don't know, they're better than they were last year. I don't know how much. I don't pay that close of attention to them, right? So we'll see how it goes. I do think, like you said, 15 is the difference. Like the guy, I don't know. I couldn't be more excited to watch him play again. And as you say so many times, we only have 11 of these left, right? Or only 11 are guaranteed. So
Oh,
um,
it's painful for you to say that. I mean, we're going
I
into
know
week
it
two,
already
and
hurts.
it
We're one
just,
week in, it already hurts. Yeah. So
the
don't take
temperature
them for
hasn't even
granted.
dropped. Nope.
Yeah.
Every weekend is a maroon Christmas present under the tree.
Yeah.
Unwrap it, enjoy it, soak it in, cheer on your team. Try not to get too upset if things don't go the way you want them.
Yeah.
My family doesn't like being in the same room when I watch these games, so I can't. Who am I to talk?
Well, let's be
But that's
honest.
that's just the way it goes.
Do you like being in the same room with them during the football games? I don't
No,
either.
nope. So I guess we better find a TV somewhere. Then that's the only solution. All right,
Yeah.
guys. I think that does it for this week. Thank you for watching. Had a few folks jump in here with us, and I
Yeah,
appreciate
for
that.
sure. And hey, like I said, at Meltdown Ags, follow us on Twitter. If you're enjoying the show, help us promote the show. All right, when we post the link, retweet it. Um, Frankly, if you post on a certain Texas A&M fan site and you're posting links to
Hurt
Josh
my
Pate,
feelings.
maybe you should post a link to this show. Tell people that you like it. I don't know. So yeah, help us out. Anyway,
Hashtag grow the show.
ugh,
And with that,
I quit
awkward
now.
wave.
Awkward way. All right. Bye bye.
Meltdown out.
Mhm.